Okay, class, welcome to lesson 1 about migrations in Rwanda. And this is also under population in Rwanda, which is our unit 9. So in this lesson, we are going to define migration. We look at the types of migration, causes of migration, and effects of migration in Rwanda. So what is migration? What is migration? Migration refers to the movement of people from one place to another. The movement of people from one place to another, from one district to another, from one country to another, from one province of Rwanda to another province. So we have different types of migrations, and number 1 is temporary migration. This refers to the movement of people from one place to another for a short period of time. A short period of time. This means that under this type, people migrate with an intention of coming back to their places of residence. Then we have permanent migration. This is the movement of people from one place to another without the intention of going back to areas where they moved from. Without an intention of going back to areas of their origin. Then we have voluntary migration. This is the movement of people from one place to another out of their own will. They move willingly, they migrate willingly, they are not forced to migrate. Then we have involuntary migration, which I think is the opposite of voluntary. This is the movement of people from one place to another by force. By force. These people are forced to migrate. They are forced by different conditions. It might be because of natural hazards, because they fear for their lives, so they are forced to migrate. For example, in case of earthquakes, in case of drought, in case of famine, in case of political instabilities, even the government policy can force people to migrate from risky areas to areas which are safer. For example, these days, the government of Rwanda is forcing people to migrate from areas affected by floods, wetlands, to safer areas. Then we have internal migrations. What is an internal migration? It is a type of migration within a country. People don't move beyond the boundaries of the country, beyond the borders. They remain within a country. Say, people migrate from Rwamagana to Nyagatare district. People migrate from Kayonza district to Rubavu district. That is internal. They have not moved beyond the borders. Then we have different types of internal migrations. This table summarizes these types. We have rural-urban migration. Rural-urban. People move from rural areas to towns or cities. For example, in Rwanda, people can migrate from Gashora village to Kigali city, or from Ramiro village or Mayanje village to Rwamagana town. Then we have urban-rural migration. This is the opposite of the above. This time, people move from towns or cities to villages. Urban-rural. People may migrate from Kigali city and stay in Gashora village. Next, we have urban migration. Urban, town to town, city to city. For example, people might migrate from Rwamagana town and stay in Kayonza town, or Gasibo town to Kigali city. That is urban, town. Then we have rural migration. Here, people move from villages to other villages. A person migrates from one village and goes to stay in another village. Then we have external migration. This is where people move from one country to another. They cross borders. For example, some Rwandese migrate from Rwanda. They go to stay in Tanzania. That is external migration. It is the opposite of internal migration. Then we have two other terms which we need to look at: immigration and immigration. These are two confusing terms which you have to be careful about. Number one, we have immigration. This is the act of leaving a country to live in another. The act of leaving a country, your own country, you go and live in another. That act is called immigration. When you look at it, it is under external migration. Because you are leaving your country, you are going to stay in a foreign country. Then we have immigration. Emigration and immigration. Immigration is the act of entering. You are not leaving. This time you are entering a foreign country. From your country, and you are entering a foreign country to live there either temporarily or permanently. So one involves leaving and one involves what? Entering. Causes of migration in Rwanda. Why do you think in Rwanda people migrate from one province to stay in another province, or from one district to another, or from our country to foreign countries? There are very many causes. We cannot exhaust them. And these causes are under the pushing factors and pulling factors. Pushing factors involve conditions which force people to migrate to another place. Then pulling factors are conditions that attract people in the receiving area. Pushing factors are in sending areas, and pulling factors are in receiving areas. So what are the causes? We have one. These ones I will not labor much to explain. They are clear. We have shortage of land for settlement and agriculture. Rwanda is a small country and population is high. So people tend to move from highly populated areas to low populated areas in order to get enough land for cultivation and for animal keeping. Then we have insecurity in some areas. There are areas sometimes known to be areas where rebels hide, and they prove to be insecure, and people try to move away from such areas. For example, in Rwanda, areas near Nyungwe Forest, people tend to move away from those areas because of rebel stories. Then we have government policy. For example, of recent, the government has been displacing people, telling people to migrate, advising people to migrate from wetlands and stay in areas which are safe. Then we have government policy. No, this is the repetition. Then we have religious reasons. Religious reasons here, people move from one place to another because of religion. Like in Rwanda, Muslims may move from our country to Mecca, pilgrimages. So religious factors can also force people to move from their original areas to other areas. Even within Rwanda here, you find people moving from their original areas to stay near areas where their churches are. Then we have education. For example, when you look at rural-urban migration in Rwanda, people move from villages to towns in order to get access to better schools, better universities, better colleges, etc. And we have foreign students who study in our country. We also have our sons and daughters who move from Rwanda to study from foreign countries. Next, we have natural hazards like floods, earthquakes, drought. All these force people to move from those affected areas to areas which are free from these hazards. People migrate because they are searching for jobs. They want to move from rural areas where job opportunities are more or less compared to towns or cities. Most of the jobs are available in cities and towns, and therefore after school, young people migrate from rural areas to cities to look for jobs. Even if they are not white-collar jobs, even the people who do vocational jobs, for example, those who deal with mechanics, also migrate to towns because that's where they get more jobs. Next, we have research. The need to carry out research also forces people to move from maybe rural areas to urban areas, or urban areas to rural areas, depending on the kind of research they are doing. Then we have search for water, and this is common with pastoralists communities which keep large herds of animals. They move looking for water and pastures. For example, in eastern province of Rwanda, most of the people are cattle keepers and the area is dry. So sometimes in the dry season, these people move a bit from one location to another, especially near the banks of Akagera, to look for water for their animals. And sometimes they might be forced even to cross with their animals beyond Akagera to Tanzania. Next, business opportunities, especially traders move from place to place in search of business chances or opportunities, both within and outside Rwanda. We have transport and communication networks. People move from rural and remote areas and stay near better means of transport like roads, airports, because that's where also business is booming.